Good evening, members of the Charter Commission, staff, as well as the general public. This is the organizing meeting of the City of South Fulton Charter Commission, the first convening of the Charter Commission. I think we should give ourselves a round of applause. We reached 5 years. This meeting will be called pursuant to the city charter, which we will outline a little further in the agenda. But each of you have an agenda before you, which we wish to proceed as printed without any objections. So with that, we'll do introductions of who we have here in the room with us today.
Okay, and let's start down here with
Actually, for the sake of time, I was gonna handle that.
on the left. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Thank you.
So we have Mr. Benny Crane, and you don't mind which state representative recommended you?
Happy to be here, Corey. My name is Benny Crane. I was appointed by State Rep. Deborah Bazemore.
Thank you. That's District 63. Next, we have William Bill
69 now.
Edwards. I'm sorry.
I believe it's 69 now.
60. Oh, yeah, it has changed.
Yeah.
William Bill Edwards.
Glad to be here. I was appointed by Derek Jackson, former Representative Derek Jackson.
Yes. And then for the record, the current districts are in play right now until January 1. So,
You're right. I stand corrected, sir.
so the next appointee is Dedrain D. Franklin. Darian, I'm sorry.
I'm appointed by Representative Mandisha Thomas, District 65.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Dory Henry is not present today. Next is Mr. John Herring.
John Herring, good evening to all. I was appointed by William Blvd, State Representative William Blvd.
Thank you. And next is Judge Kenya Johnson.
Good day, everyone. So appointed by the Council of the City of South Fulton.
And we have Ms. Daphne Jordan, who has joined us via Zoom. Can you hear us, Ms. Jordan? I don't think she can hear us. But she is appointed by State Representative Roger Bruce. Next is Mayor Khalid Kamau.
Hi, I am the new mayor of the city of South Fulton. I was appointed by the new mayor of the city of South Fulton.
And next is Cecily Cole Martin.
Good evening. I was appointed by State Senator Sonia Halpern.
And next is Ms. Suzanne Alkelberry.
Good evening. I was appointed by Representative Marie Letts.
And last but not least, Mr. Marshall J. Taggart, Jr.
Yes, good evening. I was appointed by State Senator Horaceena Tate, representing the 38th District.
Thank you. Once again, congratulations on being appointed to this first Charter Commission. We look forward to your work and thank you for your service. Next on the agenda is remarks. We have two city officials, and we have the chair for the City of South Fulton Legislative Delegation, Mr. Roger Bruce, who will come address you at this time.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's really good to see you guys here. I'm not going to be at all of your meetings, I'll promise you that. I wanted to come tonight because this was the first meeting, and I wanted to just make sure that you understood how this came to be. Some of you asked me about this earlier today. When we were in the last moments of putting this city together, our session ends at midnight, supposedly at midnight, on the 40th day of the session. And we were in that 40th day. Benny, you were there, you remember. And we had already gotten to midnight, and we were like thinking this wasn't going to happen. And we went and talked to the Speaker of the House, and he said, well, there's nothing in the rules that say we have to stop at midnight. So we kept going. And the city came into existence 15 minutes after midnight. And that was the first time in all the years that I'd been there that we had gone past midnight. So this city was supposed to come into creation. As we were going through that process, there was, we had we had a city charter, and we had gone through all kinds of meetings and all kinds of things to try to get that charter passed. And some of our Republican colleagues basically came to us and said, if you want it to pass, then this is what your charter is going to look like. You remember that?
Quite well.
Okay. And so we said, all right, fine, because we wanted it to pass. There was a lot of reasons why we had to get it done, and we had to get it done then. Issues with the school board, they were going to close down some of our schools. I mean, all kinds of reasons why we had to get it done then. So the compromise was that we would get it through with the changes they wanted to make, but that we would add to the charter that in 5 years we would look at it again to see what it is that we wanted to change, if there was anything. Doesn't mean that you may not want to change anything, but the whole idea was that we wanted to give ourselves an opportunity to either fix what they did that night or to accept what they did, and that's kind of how we got here. Is that your memory of it, Benny?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want you to keep me honest, okay? And, you know, one of the things that I want people to understand is that what you're here to do is to make recommendations. Some of the things that you might want to change can be changed by the city council itself. That's the whole point of having a city council. Other things, certain things will have to go before the General Assembly in order to change. And we can change things without coming to you, too, if we want to. The other piece of it is that there are certain things that may have to be changed through a vote of the public. If you want to make a substantial change, a really big something, it's probably going to have to go before the public for a vote, and you want it to go before the public for a vote. If it changes something that they originally decided to vote for. So that's why I wanted to come tonight, to first say thank you for being willing to serve. You're going to get a lot of input, I promise you. It's going to be a lot of people calling you, wanting to do things. You know, some of them you're just going to ignore. Others you will probably say, okay. And I suggest that you do all you can to get as much public input as you can into what you're doing. But part of the reason that you were selected is because people who selected you wanted you to use your own thought process too. So again, I want to say thank you for your service. Any way that I can help you, you know, I'm willing to do that. If you need any kind of background information, just pick up the phone. I know everybody in here, so if you need information, just call me. You are fortunate that you have some people that were involved in this process as we were putting it together. You have others that weren't there, have no clue what was going on during that period of time, but you have a variety. And again, any way that I can be of help to you, any way I can assist you, I would do it. As you decide on who your leaders are going to be, just keep in mind that you got to know what you're doing with this process, okay? And any way, again, that I can help you, feel free to call me. Thank you so much. It's not a council meeting.
I don't see anyone raising their, oh.
I definitely would.
I'm sorry, also, when you speak, there are microphones in front of you. Would you please press the button so that they can capture it online?
Okay, I was a part of the inception when we gathered to become a city. I served as chair for code enforcement, so I definitely remember you, and I will definitely need your input on things that are going on. So I appreciate you for reaching out. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bruce. And before we call on the mayor of the city to provide remarks, I neglected to introduce myself. I'm Corey Adams. I'm the city clerk. For those that don't know me, wanted to make sure that I made that introduction. So with that, Mayor Khalid, would you like to bring remarks?
Yes. I thought we were going to let everyone introduce themselves. I was going to start off my remarks this way. I'm going to do it again. amongst this august body of intellect, there is with us South Fulton's first mayor, Mayor Edwards. Mayor Edwards arrived at 5:59 p.m. and we were late getting out of our meeting. Mayor Edwards, you may remember how we do love a good executive session. But as a great Morehouse man once said, to be early is to be on time, and we thank you for being on time. I apologize for the fact that we were late. I'm so glad that you are here. Your experience is always welcome. I'm going to read this quote. I've been thinking about this moment. I recently took a trip to with our lobbying firm to Capitol Hill, to lobby. We knew these transportation dollars were coming, so we wanted to get ahead of the curve. But while I was there, in between meetings on my downtime, I went to Constitutional Hall and I saw the United States Constitution, and all of the history is just laid out, and they have like all these quotes about that moment, and it reminds me so much of the founding of our city, right? John Adams, who went on to be our second president, was part of those constitutional conventions. He said, "We are in the very midst of a revolution of the most complete, unexpected, and remarkable of any in the history of nations." And I believe that about our city. I believe that we are in a revolutionary moment in self-determination. It took us a while to get here. It took us maybe a little bit too long, but we got here. And we are charting a course for ourselves at the most local level. And I just think that it's such an amazing moment. I also want to say that I know that a lot of people have been like eagerly anticipating this charter commission, right, on all sides of every issue. And I just don't want people to think that this charter commission is, it is a backstop, right? It is a backstop. It's a time to check in and say, are things really going the way that we thought that they would? But it's not the final backstop. As always, I just want everyone to remember that, regardless of what you hear, the final backstop, according to our United States Constitution and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Georgia, is that our final backstop is you. One more revolutionary quote, Thomas Jefferson, who went on to become a founding father, said that an educated citizenry is a vital requisite to our survival as a free people. And so the we that I speak about when I'm talking about we is not just we, the Charter Commission, but we, the people of the city of South Fulton. We are all in this together. And so I hope that the numbers that we have viewing tonight's meeting will continue through all of the meetings, because this is a we the people moment. So I do want to thank everyone for coming out, every citizen who has watched the council meeting and knows how intense and arduous these can be and how challenging they can be, and said, I want to come and do this too. Thank you so much. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Next, we will have remarks from our city manager, Tammy Sadler-Jones.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tammy Sadler-Jones, and I serve as your city manager. And I just want to say congratulations to you. I want to thank you, and then I also want to pledge as the city manager that my staff and I are here to support you, and however we can assist in the success of this charter commission, you have my commitment to do that. So thank you so much for your service.
So with that, I would ask that you take the paper out, the oath of office that handed out previously. And then once we recite this oath of office, please sign above your name, and you will be officially sworn in. And Ms. Ackerberry will get you one after the meeting. So if you would please stand and raise your right hand for me, please. Raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Tammy,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will truly discharge
that I will truly discharge
the duties as a member
the duties as a member
of the City of South Fulton Charter Commission
of the
City of South Fulton Charter Commission
in all matters which require my official action
in all matters which require my official action
to the best of my knowledge and skill,
to the best of my knowledge and skill,
and I will so act,
and I will so act
as in my judgment
as in my judgment
will be most conducive
will be most conducive
to the welfare and best interests
to the welfare and best interests
of the entire city.
of the entire city.
I further solemnly swear
I further solemnly swear
that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for
that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for
public money due this state,
public money due this state,
and that I am otherwise qualified
and that I am otherwise qualified
to hold said office
to hold said office
according to the Constitution of the United States of America.
according to the Constitution of the United States of America.
I further solemnly swear
I further solemnly swear
that I have been a resident of the City of South Fulton
that I have been a resident of the City of South Fulton
for the time required by the Constitution
for the time required by the Constitution
and laws of this state
and laws of this state
and the Charter
and the Charter
and the Code of Ordinances
and the Code of Ordinances
of the City of South Fulton.
of the City of South Fulton.
So help me God,
So help me God,
or so I affirm.
or so I affirm.
Congratulations. You are sworn, and please sign those and return those to myself or Mr. Pascal after the meeting. And with that, we will get down to the purpose of tonight's meeting. Once again, my name is Corey Adams, I serve as the city clerk. Also have, of course, the city manager with us, as well as the city attorney and his office. Just wanted to read for you officially, Representative Bruce did an excellent job of outlining the kind of charge or objective of this commission. But I wanted to officially read, and it's located in your books under the yellow tab, page 44 of 55, section 7.18, Charter Commission. And it states as follows: at the first regularly scheduled city council meeting, 5 years after the inception of the City of South Fulton, the mayor and city council should call for a charter commission to review the city's experience and recommend to the General Assembly any changes to the city charter. Members of the charter commission shall be appointed as follows: one by the mayor, one by the city council, and one by each member of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate whose district lies wholly or partially within the corporate boundaries of the City of South Fulton. All members of the Charter Commission must reside in the City of South Fulton. The commission must complete the recommendations within 6 months of creation. The commission shall make its recommendations in writing directly to each member of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate whose district lies wholly or partially within the corporate boundaries of the City of South Fulton. The members of the Georgia House of Representatives and Senate whose district lies wholly or partially within the corporate boundaries of the City of South Fulton shall call said charter commission if the mayor and city council fail to call such commission at the time required by this section. So that is the official charge to this commission. It's very broad, as you can see. We looked at other cities in terms of how they handled their first commission, but this body has a lot of broad latitude in terms of how you go about your work. I would like to identify what's in your blue binder. The first item on the top is the actual call to create the charter commission, which was passed by the city council. Next, you will have the actual city charter in all its sections as in effect today. We also provided for your information any pending legislation before the council. So you do have one piece of legislation under the purple tab that the council is in the breast of council right now in terms of consideration that will be considered at the August meeting. And then lastly, you have under the red tab, House Bill 514, which was the enabling legislation that created the City of South Fulton. And so we wanted to make sure you had all of this material as background material. We also wanted to say that unless y'all deem otherwise, us as staff, we do not intend to run this commission. We have a lot of able-bodied men and women on this commission who really can move forward without our assistance. But we are here to provide resource and support to you. And as the city manager mentioned, the city clerk's office as well as the city attorney's office is prepared to provide that information. With that, we just wanted to get a couple ground rules in place for this commission before you take up the consideration of a chair and/or vice chair, and also the meeting frequency in terms of when you intend to meet, whether it be monthly, 2 times a month. Only thing I will say is that per the charter, you have 6 months to complete your work. Unfortunately, we've already lost a month, so Thanksgiving, maybe November 2022, is around the time that the 6 months will sunset. So with that, I will bring up Reginald McClendon, who serves as the Assistant City Attorney, to go over some basic Open Meetings Act rules and regulations.
I'm sorry, but before you do that, Mr. Chairman Reeves, Chairman, Mr. City Clerk, yes, Chairman Adams. We have 2 Corys in these meetings. Chairman Adams, just a point of discussion, if I could be, it's really maybe a question, a point of information, a point of discussion. I would hope, I wasn't aware that was the intention of our city administration. So I would hope that perhaps we could have some discussion about at least an offering of space in the city to hold these meetings, and a possible offering of, we have great telecommunication support happening right now. We're broadcasting on multiple places. So if that's like something that we need to bring up in a council meeting to just get, I want to make sure that our council has buy-in for that. But if it would be a great lifting of a burden for us if the space and sort of broadcast needs of this could be handled by our city. So I hope that's something our city would consider. That's it.
Yes, I didn't mean to convey that. Actually, I was trying to convey that with the assistance of the concurrence of the city manager, that we are here to provide the resources support administratively for this commission. So unless you choose to meet at another location, City Hall, it will be made available, as well as streaming. And like I say, my staff in particular will provide the administrative support in terms of your resource materials, any outside research you ask for in terms of procuring that and getting it. So I didn't mean to imply that the city would not be here for the commission.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Adams, can I ask a question, follow up?
Yes.
Will the city also be providing resources to create transcripts of the proceedings, note-taking, secretarial, administrative responsibilities?
Yeah,
And the reason I ask that, because the next item was just for chair and vice chair. It didn't talk about other resources that are critically needed.
Right. Yes. The way I would answer that is, however the commission, whatever they deem appropriate in terms of the staff support that's needed, we can provide that. Some commissions, they have chosen someone amongst themselves to serve as secretary. Others have asked staff from the city to provide that. So if that's a resource that you would like, without objection from the city manager, I think we'll proceed and try to make it happen.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Point of
McClendon?
clarification.
Yes.
Just a quick question. Are the officers listed in the charter document per the state on what those officers are besides the chair and the vice chair? To my colleague's point, Mr. Crane, we may have, if they're listed, what those officers should be.
Right.
I would assume parliamentarian for us, potentially recording secretary of some type that would be beneficial.
Yes, that is within the breast of this body. I read in terms of what the charter says in regard to the formation of the Charter Commission. It is silent regarding the requirement for a chair.
Yes, sir.
So this is a deliberative body, and, you know, under Robert's rules, you can determine what officers are needed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm Reggie McClendon, Assistant City Attorney. I'm here with our City Attorney, Mr. Hyman, and also my colleague, Catherine Vernay from the City Attorney's Office, to give a very quick overview of the Georgia Open Meetings Act. This commission is a creation of the City of South Fulton Charter, and therefore this body is subject to the Georgia Open Meetings Act. I'm sure that you all have served on various boards and commissions before, so you are familiar with that act. But being subject to the Open Meetings Act means that this commission is open to the public as we are today, and that will also be true if any virtual meetings are held, and the meetings are subject to advance notice, and they have to have an agenda. Quorum for this body, this is an 11-member body, and so quorum will be 6 members. So if any 6 members of you are gathered, then that will constitute a meeting under the Georgia Open Meetings Act, which will be noticed. The last point I want to make is about communications between the commissioners, which will also be subject to the Georgia Open Records Act, and so. It is my understanding that the City of South Fulton IT department will be issuing you all an email address that you can use to communicate with each other for business of the Charter Commission. The reason we're going to do that is because we don't want any of your communications that might be subject to open records to be made through your personal email addresses. We don't want to open you up to that type of scrutiny. And so you will be getting emails. Please use those emails to communicate, but remember that any of those messages will be subject to an open records request. And if there are any questions, I will turn it back over to Mr. Adams.
I have one question for you, Mr. McClendon. Will this body be subject to insurance protection for errors and omissions under the city's insurance for any acts or failure to act while we are acting in our official capacity?
The official capacity of this commission is only to make recommendations to the state legislative delegation. In that capacity, I don't believe you would have any type of liability.
But to add to that, you can be sued, as you know, by anybody at any time, whether it's frivolous or otherwise. So if a proceeding comes forward that we know is frivolous because we're just a recommending body, if we are in a lawsuit, would we be covered under the city's insurance?
That is not a question that we have discussed internally, but I will get with the city attorney, Mr. Hyman, and see if we can get you.
I appreciate that.
I have one just a clarifying question, Mr. Attorney. You said email communications, but is it all communications, communications in writing that we send to one another, any other types of pieces, social media, just to be specific so we can clearly understand exactly what's subject to open records?
Yes, your personal, I would advise you not to communicate through your personal devices, so text messages, things like that, because those written communications can be subject to the Open Records Act as well.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McClendon. So with that, that's the information that we wanted to provide for you today in terms of from a foundation organizational standpoint. At this point of the meeting, as staff, you know, the intent of tonight's meeting was to select a chair and vice chair and determine when you will meet. I don't know if you necessarily want to get into any of the merits of some of the areas that you want to look at, or you want to look at it from cover to cover. But at this point, we'll turn it over. I guess I'll handle that from here in terms of the selection of the chair and vice chair, in terms of nominations from the floor.
Yeah, did you want to ask for a nomination? Yeah. I would like to nominate Mayor Bill Edwards as our chair.
I second.
Are there any other nominations? Is there a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
All show by a sign of raising your hand if you're in favor. Opposers have that same right. Mr. William Bill Edwards has been selected as the chair for this Charter Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. You knocked me off my feet. But anyway,
Did you want to,
thank you so much.
did you want to sit here, right?
Not necessarily.
So with that, Mr. Chair, this body can select a vice chair. So I'll turn it over to you in terms of to receive nominations for the vice chair position.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk, and I think we can do that now. Any nominations for vice chair? Don't everybody speak at one time?
Can I nominate Judge Johnson?
Who was it?
Judge Johnson.
Okay. Any other nominations?
I move that we close the nomination with the said one name.
Is there a second? Okay,
So moved.
been properly moved in second. Any discussion on it? Hearing none. Let's vote, please.
Any opposed? So it is ordered. Judge Johnson is the vice chair.
Thank
You
you.
should have said that.
So with that, Mr. Chair, I will turn the discussion and facilitation of this meeting over to you. As I mentioned before, the main topic is in terms of how often you will meet. Once again, by charter, the sunset is November 25th, 2022. That recommendations need to be forwarded to the City of South Fulton delegation.
Excuse me, Mr. Adams, our books are incomplete.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, I guess that we need to have a discussion as to the frequency of meetings. I know everybody's busy. Everybody got things to do. I'm the only retired person up here, I guess. But I think frequency of meetings is going to be very, very important. Any discussion that you would like to have about this frequency? Madam Vice Chair?
As we begin to formulate and review the documents, perhaps a meeting twice a month at this stage is suggested.
Discussion?
Let me add, I totally agree with that, but perhaps there might be some work that's done in between the meetings that we should be able to have some platform that we can discuss so that we won't have to deal with rudimentary discussions when we get here necessarily. If there's a thought
I think
had,
that, yeah, go ahead.
or that anyone has, perhaps we can talk. Now, that wouldn't, if I understood the assistant attorney, it takes 6 of us together to create a quorum, but if we're talking one-on-one to get clarity, like Representative Roger Bruce also said, his door is open to get any assistance that we need. Perhaps this is an opportunity to review the document and get some clarity before we get back to the meeting so that we don't spend that quality time getting clarity a week ago that we could have gotten before the meeting.
I think you have to be very careful of the fact that you don't want to create a quorum if you don't want to have to.
That's my point.
Then you make some problems. Let me ask the attorney. Does anything in this charter keep us from having a special call meeting where it's necessary on any issue?
No, sir, nothing stops you from having a special call meeting. Now, this commission does not have a regular meeting schedule established. So any meeting that you have is a called meeting. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a special call meeting since you don't have a set meeting schedule. So you all can meet whenever it is that you want to call a meeting. Now, I would quickly caution you against creating committees as part of the commission, because then if you are, to Mr. Crane's earlier point, if you're going to kind of meet in smaller groups to discuss business of the commission. If you officially create a committee, then those committees would also be subject to the Open Records Act, and you'd have to notice those, the Open Meetings Act, and you'd have to notice those meetings. But that doesn't mean you can't talk one-on-one, but if you officially create those committees, then you have to notice those meetings. But to answer your question, you all can meet whenever you want.
Yeah, so, Mr. Crane, I think that may help your question.
Well, to hit that, my question was, it wasn't about creating a subcommittee.
No, I know
Or
that.
ad hoc. It was about individual conversations that we may have for clarity's sake as we move through these two-week intervals.
But the point I wanted to make was that you can't have a special call meeting, okay? He just said that.
Okay.
I think that one of the things you have to also understand is, you know, there's always been an issue about telephone conversations and quorums. Do you want to speak on that? You like your surprise? That's a bad one for you?
You can just stay up there.
You all can speak on the telephone as long as there's not a quorum of you.
That's what I want. That's what I want to make clear. Right. Right.
If I may add, just so we can align our schedules, perhaps we do set up a meeting schedule, and then when items occur that we need to discuss, we do proceed with a specially called meeting. That way we can plan ahead
Madam
as
Vice
committee
Chair.
members.
Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I would implore if I think biweekly is probably a good schedule. I would just implore you all to please make those not the second and fourth week of the month when we have our city council meetings. That's it.
Would we also be open to Zoom meetings, or do they have to be, or is there anything that compels us, that would compel us to do in person?
I think we can be where we want to be, Mr. Crane, and that's why we're here, but I don't think anything wrong with Zoom meetings. We have to be very careful, however, with scheduling a meeting at a time that citizens can't make it. You know, you wouldn't schedule a meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning on Friday, you know, or you'll hear a whole lot about that. But I think we have to be very careful about the time we choose as along with the day we choose. Any suggestions?
In addition to that, did we clarify whether there be any administrative support in regards to secretarial? Because if we're defining now the times and the types of meetings that we are going to have, then who's going to record those for documentation? I heard several things. One is the Open Record Act, which is vitally important. And secondly, we are talking about email communications as well. Someone has to record those things. So we did not clarify, from my understanding, that we will have that type of administrative support. So my question is, will we have that from the city of South Fulton?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
I think, you know, it was offered earlier, right, that you would have that, and that it's, if we would like for them to continue doing what they have done tonight, they are saying that they are ready to do that. And I will make sure to get buy-in from my city council as well, because I think that they should be involved in these kind of decisions. But if that is the case, and it is the will of this body just to move things along, if it's the will of this body to continue doing things the way that we're doing, I'll go ahead and throw out the suggestion of the first and third Tuesdays, because they have to do this again in a week on the second and fourth Tuesday. So this would give them the maximum distance possible from their, we're kind of doubling their commitment. So I just want to be, you know, cognizant of all that you all do to make this magic happen.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, before you do that, let me address Mr. Herring. Whichever way you choose, it's got to be efficient and it's got to be professional. Because this, Mr. Crane talked about lawsuits and stuff like that. These become part of the record. Every statement that you make needs to be put in writing. So whichever way we choose, we got to have professionalism and efficiency in terms of our records.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Question, I guess, to the mayor or to the city manager. The administrative assistants, should we decide to move in that direction, would that start tonight? Because we're conducting business now that should be on the record beyond a Zoom call.
Oh, that's definitely happening.
Yes.
I mean, to the point of being able to have transcripts
Yeah.
of the meetings?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's just important to ask.
We had a great clerk department there. They'll be on it. The mayor has made a suggestion. What was it again? What days?
The first and third Tuesdays.
First and third Tuesdays. Any discussion about that?
Yes, can we consider first and third Mondays?
We can do anything.
I just
Is that
thought
what you like to do?
I just thought I'd consider that.
So we got a
Today's
first and third Monday, and we got a first and third Tuesday. Mr. Mayor, you want to make that in terms of a motion?
Yeah, no. I'm going to just, hearing the Monday, I think it's just important that they have one business day, you know, to set things up for. It really does take quite a bit to make all this happen. So, yes, I'm going to make a motion that we schedule these meetings the first and third Tuesdays.
Properly,
I'm sorry, at 6?
let me carry the motion.
6 p.m.
Okay, let me carry the motion. It's been properly moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, discussion. I made a nomination for first and third Monday.
Yes.
We haven't discussed that. How do we get to decide?
He made a motion, and we carried the motion.
made a
through, and the
motion.
fails.
I was trying to get in before that happened.
Yeah.
The the nomination hadn't been closed with two nominations, two suggestions. We never got to that point.
I assumed that it was. There was no more conversation, but if we choose to do it, we can do that. Mr. Taggart, go
I
ahead.
mean, just looking at Robert's Rules of Order,
Yeah.
are you asking for the mayor to make a friendly amendment to his motion to, instead of Tuesdays, to make it Mondays? Is that your recommendation, Mr. Cronin?
That was, well, I would draw the recommendation.
We don't have to.
No, it was just a question.
Yes.
Just for consideration.
Because if his motion fails, you.
We
No,
in
no,
discussion.
it's
Yeah.
fine. I don't think it
You
was.
seconded, yeah.
Okay, would you repeat your motion and second again?
It is to have these charter commission meetings the first and third Tuesdays at 6 p.m.
Second by,
I second.
okay, Mr. Hook, all right. All right, been properly moved and second. Any further discussion?
I want to just add a slight amendment with just to move things along, because it's almost 7, that the next one, we are in the
6:30. What time is it? He said 6.
second Tuesday? Yes. So the next one would then be, it would be next week. Do we want to wait until the first Tuesday in August, or do you want to wait that long? Because we did first and third. So is next week fine? Beginning, I just want to make sure that we have that, so you can go ahead and put your notice out, because we got to properly notice the meetings.
Well-
If we don't have to debate about the place, then we know that it's
So-
going to be here or on Zoom or virtually, if that doesn't violate any Open Meetings Act.
Okay, that's part of the discussion. Let's move the motion. It's been motion properly moved and second. Any further discussion?
Call for the question, please.
Okay, Mr. Tite, call for the question. This is a vote for the call of the question. Any discussion? We're voting on the call for the question. Let's vote, please. Okay, that passes. Bring up the main motion from Mr. Khalid. Mr. Clerk, you want to repeat it again, Mr. Khalid, just for the record?
Yes, for these meetings to occur the first and third Tuesdays at 6 p.m. with the first meeting, or the next meeting being next Tuesday at 6 p.m.
I think that's a
Here
little
at
change in what was.
City Hall. Yeah, that was, I was making a substitute, I was making a substitute motion
Yeah.
just
No, you
to
don't.
try and combine, but we could just say first and third Tuesdays if you all want to have more discussion about when we're going to start first and
We'll go
third
with the motion
Tuesdays
that
and
you
where it's
stated.
going to be.
Mr. Mayor, we'll go with the motion you stated, okay?
Okay.
Is it all right with this person second? He added a little bit to that.
It's, Ms. Huckleberry.
Yeah, Ms. Acapera, how you doing?
And that is fine.
Okay,
A second remains.
all right, let's vote, please. All those in favor? All those opposed? That passes.
Just a point of clarification, just want to make sure that we are meeting in this room. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, that's what I understand.
Okay, no problem.
That's what I understand.
Thank you.
We talked about, Mr. Clerk, you talked about secretary and other jobs. Do we have to handle those tonight? Or it's my colleague's wish, but probably need to do secretary anyway. Decide what we're going to do.
Yes, it's a pleasure of the
Yeah.
body.
So the two options is for the staff, Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, do it, or else have someone who's a member of the body to do it. Mr. Mayor.
I'll make a motion that our wonderful city clerk be our secretary for this committee.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, been properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, that passes. Let's vote. All in favor? Okay, that passes unanimously. Have you left anything out we need to do? Administratively.
Yes, that's all that we had for you this evening. The rest of it was just open discussion amongst the body.
But I think we have everything in place, you all administratively, so we can go forward. Mr. Taggart, go ahead.
Question about special call or ad hoc meetings. Are there any provisions associated with that, or that's just administered by you as a chair? sir?
Yeah, if enough folk vote to have one.
That's what he asked when he was asking about the quorum. So if
The
6 of us say
quorum,
we
yeah.
need
No,
to
no,
have.
no, no. I asked the question because can other members of the committee call a special ad hoc? That's a difference.
And I think yes, if they got the votes. That's how that goes. When you agree, Mr. Mayor, if someone's calling.
I have no idea. I think that's a question for our city attorney. They look confused now, so I would want to ask them.
We've been doing it that way for a long time. Go ahead.
It sounds to me like the question you're getting at is who can call a meeting of the commission. And there are no particular rules governing this commission, and so I think that it will be up to you all to determine how it is that a meeting can be called. If only the chair can call a meeting, or if a number of other members of the commission can come together and call a meeting.
I recommend that the chair and a significant vote of the council can call a meeting, which is, what was it? You said 6? 6 members, either way. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I agree, Mr. Chair, wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, you had to say something.
Yeah, I kind of want to, I hear that motion. I want to make just a broader motion because I think we're so many high-powered minds that we're maybe overthinking it a little bit. We're coming up with these questions, well, what about this, what about this? So what if I just make a motion that we adopt Robert's Rules of Order tonight, and then all of these, like, minutia that we're getting into, it's all governed by Robert's Rules of Order. A quorum of any member of the committee can call a meeting, you know, and so whatever other kind of things that we think that we might need to consider tonight have probably been considered by conveners of meetings in history. So if we just trust the wisdom of that book, we could just adopt that tonight and then probably proceed.
Well, go ahead.
I move that this committee be governed by Robert's Rules of Order.
I second.
Properly moved and second. Discussion. Hearing none. Let's vote. All in favor? Okay. That passes unanimously. Any further discussion?
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it on? So we've decided on the schedule time. What is going to be the agenda for the next meeting in terms of the homework, I guess, that I want to know about, that we each need to do to be prepared for the next meeting?
I think that's a good question. And I've been thinking, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you thought about this, but, you know, the charter, that we break it up and each meeting, I mean, we may do sections 1, 2, or 3, or whatever the case may be, and come back with it that way. I don't think we need to try to really eat this whole animal at one time. So, Madam Vice Chair, you want to say something?
Yes, I have a question for Representative Bruce, and to seek guidance from this committee. I had a chance to pull some chartering recommendations from other cities recently, and the formats cross between line-by-line edits of the charter or a summary submitted to the delegation of what our changes are. And so I wanted to see if Representative Bruce has any guidance on how they want to receive our recommendations.
Representative Bruce?
That's good.
I don't want to speak for all of the members, because everybody's not here. But I will address that to them and get an answer to it. But for my purposes, what I'd like to see is just the recommendations. Here's what you guys considered. Here's the recommendations that you'd like to present. And because we're going to be meeting after you meet to talk about the recommendations and decide who in the delegation is going to carry whatever pieces of legislation comes out of this. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
So you prefer a summary versus line-by-line?
Yeah, nobody's going to
edits?
go through that. We just want to know what changes you want to make.
Thank you.
And some of those changes, like I said, we'll say okay. Some of them you may not say okay. But the idea is that we would look for recommendations from you as to what changes you want to see.
We can be in consultation with the clerk and decide what areas we're going to do each meeting that'll lead us up to that November deadline. That may be a reasonable suggestion.
And the other thing is I really strongly recommend that you set some schedules for public hearing to get input from the public.
Sure.
I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think that we could, decide tonight, like using Robert's Rules of Order, right, that we are going to allow the chair to set the agenda for the meeting, and then we just communicate our ideas to the chair. I mean, that's how, a lot of these bodies do it. So we will just communicate our ideas to you, and then you can set the agenda for the meeting, and it sounds like the agenda for the next meeting is a discussion on how we are going to break up the charter and spread it across the meetings. It could be as simple as at the end of every meeting, we decide what we want to do next, or how much of it we want to do next. But I'd make a motion that we just submit our ideas for the next meeting to you.
And to give the appropriate time for everybody here to look at the agenda to make changes if they wanted to. So I don't want to come up with an agenda the day of the meeting. Go ahead.
I think it's
Those are so fun.
Yeah, right.
I think it's good that we set aside so many articles of each section to go over on each meeting, and then we can discuss those before we leave that meeting, and then we can mark what we want to change and what our recommendations are. But that should be a goal. Each meeting, we should have so many articles that we were going to go through. We can scratch out, mark, recommend, or whatever, and that way we will be making, progress instead of just going back and forth. That
was exactly my to do that.
Mayor Khalid's motion is seconded.
I didn't hear you.
Mayor Khalid's motion is seconded.
Oh, is it?
What was the motion?
You said?
I didn't hear a second.
What was the motion?
I didn't hear a second. Did
I
you
heard
do?
him say I moved that. That the chair set the agenda with the recommendations of the body.
That's your motion, Mr.
Absolutely.
Mayor? Was there a second?
So
She was the second, yes.
Okay, good. Properly moved to second. Any further discussion? Did you want to say something?
That was it.
Okay.
I was just, making sure that we just can go through each article and, during our meetings, decide what we want to change or what we don't want to change, and that will help us to keep moving forward.
That's the motion. Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor? All those who oppose? That passes unanimously, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
will we take the opportunity in this meeting to outline what the deliverables are for the next meeting, which is next week. What do we want to be prepared to discuss?
Oh, that was part of my question to Mr. Clerk. I'll get with him, how we can outline how much we're gonna have each meeting, then I'll send those deliverables to you.
For the next,
For the next meeting.
For next week?
That's correct.
The 18th?
That's correct.
Okay, cool.
Could we also, Mr. Chair, to piggyback on Mr. Crane's comment, just put a fork in the road on what days will be the public hearings that we would have? Don't know if we want to do public hearings in between each one, or do we want to go back at the end and ask for input from the public, just from the frequency
I
standpoint?
got you. Mr. Khalid, you had your hand up.
Oh, no, I was, if it pleases you, I know that the way that it's done at the county, the way it's done at the city, where we've been doing this, is that just at the beginning of every meeting, we have public comment for, 30 minutes of public comment, 2 minutes each. Like
2 minutes each, yeah.
We could just do the same thing that we do for the city council meetings, and
They receive notices 2 weeks prior.
right, and they would receive, I think if we just followed that same schedule, if our next meeting is on Tuesday, then really by tomorrow, Thursday, we need to get him what he needs so that then the city clerk can give the 48 hours, the requisite 48 hours notice. So in this case, today is Tuesday. Today's Monday. I'm sorry. Today is Monday. It feels like a Tuesday because we just had a council meeting, but today is Monday. So if we could get him I move that if we could get him everything by the Wednesday prior to the next meeting, if we could get our suggestions for the agenda to him by the Wednesday prior to the next regular meeting, they would be included in the published agenda.
Okay, I had 3 or 4 hands going up at the same time. You were first.
Okay. Once we go
You
through
did motion.
our sections that we decide that we're going to make recommendations or whatever, we should have the public meeting after that and go over that information with them to see what their input is. And then that way we can continue moving up.
Let me make sure I understand what you just said.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
go ahead.
We should go through the articles and decide if we want to
Yes.
make any changes. And if we don't or whatever, then we should have the public meeting, the next meeting, and go over those recommendations and changes that we have suggested as a committee to see what their inputs are.
Okay. Does that mean,
Go
let me, no,
I
go
think
ahead.
We're thinking the same.
Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah. But go ahead. You can,
I was
me,
going to say, are you
restate what you said.
you're not suggesting, are you, Ms. Franklin, that only the first meetings would be decision-making meetings and the third meetings would
That's
be?
what I'm hearing.
No.
Okay.
Okay, just an example, say for instance, where are we in July? In August, we're doing the first and third. If we meet the first, we'll go over the articles that we want to make changes to or suggestions or whatever. Then the next meeting, we should have the public to come in to review what we've had.
So that's actually what we just voted on. So if we start the next meeting next Wednesday, next Tuesday, right, well, we've gone over this. So, right, like if they want to give public comment on this, and it might not be 30 minutes of public comment, it might be like 8 minutes of public comment, because we ain't really, done a whole lot. But it's just already baked into the motion that we made.
But I heard, and I think I said it for me, the fact that we want to divvy up the charter, right? So if you divvy it up with the clerk, on this particular meeting, we're going to do so many lines of the charter. Are you saying when we come back to the second meeting that we will have a public comment
Exactly.
to talk about the lines that we had before?
get
And
the
then
public-
hopefully vote on it?
And get the public's input on that.
Okay, so now, the other question becomes, what about at that meeting also, second meeting, there's some more lines, all right? Am I correct, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have voted, if we start every meeting with public comment, and I'm just saying this is as someone who's been having these meetings with public comment for 5 years now, the people who are coming to the next public comment are the people who watch this meeting and they have something to say about it, right? And so the people who come to the next meeting are going to be the people who watch that meeting and have something to say about it. So we've already, in making the motion, we've set in motion what I think you're hoping to achieve, which is a continuous feedback loop about the decisions that we've just made.
Does your motion allow for a public comment? Because I didn't hear that in there. Your motion.
I don't think it did. So
Well, that's the
I'll make
first
a
thing we
motion
have
that I make a motion that we have public comment. I mean, I think again, I don't know. I think we're getting into the minutia. We said that we would submit our suggestions to you. You're going to make the agenda. You've been making agendas for a long time. So if you start the agenda with public comment, like, that's what we'll do.
Well,
and
I don't automatically want to do that. If you're going to have public comment, we're going to have public comment. And
Okay.
it's incorporated in the deal. Now, if I understand your what I was getting to was that your motion did not speak to the issue of public comment.
Did not.
All right. Did that, Mr. Clerk, did this motion pass?
No, actually, it was seconded.
Okay, you want to restate your motion to include public comment, Mr.
Yes, to include, yes. I don't even know where we are in this process anymore, but my motion is stated with I would like to amend my motion as stated with the additional amendment that each meeting will begin with 30 minutes of public comment, with each speaker limited to 2 minutes apiece, and following the, no, limited to 2 minutes apiece. I'm going to stop
That's good
right there.
enough.
Yeah.
There a second?
Second,
We properly moved to second discussion.
yes.
I'll yield to Ms. Huckleberry.
Ms. Zuckerberg,
I don't think that we're gonna need 30 minutes of public comment before every meeting. This is kind of, so if I can, it's a static document, right? Everyone kind of knows what the chart is, they can read it. We'll be making changes. So it may be every, I don't know, fourth meeting or whatever, we get public comment on what we've done. But 30 minutes at each meeting is a lot of time, and it's cutting us out from being able to do the work. Not saying that the changes won't be published, but I think setting aside that time, every meeting can be a lot. Even if, 15 people come, 2 people come.
Yeah.
I think if you do it periodically as we're going through this process, that I think is sufficient.
Mr. Crane?
My question would be, if we're going to have public comment as a prerequisite to move forward, does that mean that we cannot vote on a proposed change to the charter until we've discussed it, and the next week we have people having public comment on that?
No, it doesn't mean that at all.
Listen, don't attack me, I'll just
Okay,
ask.
okay.
I'll just ask him.
Let's hear, he has the floor.
Yeah, I'll just ask him, because it sounded like when this part of the conversation occurred, it was almost laid out that way. We discuss it, and then we get the public feedback on what we discussed. So I just want to make sure that we are clear on what we're doing, that we don't have to, if next week we're dealing with section 1, line 15, whatever, if we decided next week to vote on a proposed change, we're not bound by not moving forward until public comment. I just want to make sure, because the public comment on that business that we do next week won't be until 2 weeks later to the next meeting. I just want to make sure we're not constrained.
Mr. Clerk, does the motion include public hearing at each meeting?
Yes, Mayor Khalid's motion included 30 minutes of public comment each meeting for each individual comment, and they have 2 minutes apiece.
Yeah, and it's simply a time for the public to express their views. Sometimes the public would change your mind during a vote, but it's simply a time for them to express their views, and they're going to want to do that. I saw.
I'd like to offer another alternative and perspective. In the interest of efficiency, economy, and autonomy, I would suggest that we perhaps do our work, have our discussions, do our considerations, and then present a final document to the public, or at least a summary of our amendments, and then ask for public comment all at one time, and then we come back and consider all the public comments. But I am offering an alternative to periodic and regular public comments before, so that we can be efficient, autonomous, and economical with
So
our time.
you want to make a substitute motion?
So I, at this time, offer a friendly amendment that we have public comment at the conclusion of our work, and then we reconvene to reconsider the public comment after much of the work has been done.
I mean,
Your
well,
motion.
Robert, we're following Robert's rules now, so there's technically under Robert's rules no such thing as a friendly amendment. You just have to make a substitute motion. But while I have the floor, I'll say, I think that we might be thinking about public comment kind of in the wrong way. And I think, Mayor Edwards, this is why I appointed you as chair, because I know that you understand implicitly this process. So to address first Ms. Ockelberry's concern, because I think that's the deepest concern, right? I'll start with which is a lighter concern. We're following a city council process. And so this agenda will be published by Friday, right? Because we are going to have to get our comments to Mayor Edwards by Wednesday, and then the agenda will be published by Friday. So I think one of your concerns, Mr. Crane, was that they would only be able to talk about what had happened in the past and not what had happened before. But you actually can do both, right? Because what we know from doing these meetings for years now is that people will read that agenda. And so they'll have stuff to comment on before you vote, and they'll have stuff to comment on after you vote. And what we will likely find is that, Ms. Ockelberry, is that it's really the same 5 or 6 people. It won't be, every meeting won't be 30 minutes of public comment. It might be, but it probably won't be. But I also think the deeper reason to have public comment in every meeting is I want us to think about it as not cutting our time down, but like making time for our citizens. Like we're bringing them to the table at every meeting. Because like that's just the deeply democratic commitment that we have to this. Because really, at the end of the day, we are elected officials. We're elected representatives, and once you don't stop listening, or we're appointed. Right? You are appointed by and elected, so you are like elected by appointment. But once you get the appointment, you don't stop listening, right? And you don't stop providing forums for people to publicly say what it is they got to say. So I think we just do it every meeting. We take 30 minutes.
But I don't think we're saying we're not going to provide the forum. And in fact, I think Judge Johnson's idea is probably the best, and most commissions I've seen work that way. You put out the draft document,
Yes.
Everyone has an opportunity to
Yes.
comment, the committee comes back
Absolutely.
and listens to it. I guess my periodic was a compromise to your every meeting. But I think the best way to do it is allow us to do the work first, and then allow the public to have a complete document that they can review, give us all their changes, and then we can determine how to incorporate them.
So-
I don't think it's cutting the public off, but I think we want to give them something of substance to be able to look at and give comment on.
So, Mr. Cleve, my question to you was, do you accept the friendly amendment?
You know what? We all have email addresses, so people will be able to contact us if they want, if they don't want to wait. So yes, I accept the friendly amendment.
All right. Mr. Clerk, is there a second?
It was already seconded.
It's already second? All right. How does the amendment read now?
Judge
How does-
Johnson made a friendly amendment, seconded
Right.
his motion to have the public comment at the end of the process once the document has been completed.
Is that where we understand it?
The friendly amendment was accepted, was it seconded?
No.
No,
I'll
we got
second.
that.
I mean, isn't my acceptance the second?
Yeah, he is.
Yes. He's the person. Yeah. We get ready to vote on it now. All right.
You got it, Mayor. You got it. I'm sorry. You got it. I'm gonna let you. You got
So
it.
can we repeat where we are now with, where are we now?
That's what I was trying to get him to do.
Yeah,
how does the amendment state?
It's a different, couple of different parts to it. Mayor Khalid made the motion to have all items submitted to the chair by the Wednesday prior to the next meeting for the agenda to be released on that Friday. And then the substitute with a friendly amendment from Judge Johnson was to add public comment at the end of the process once the full recommendations have been presented by the body.
Is that the way we understand it?
That's correct, thank you.
Okay. Then if no further discussion, you ready to vote?
Absolutely.
You have one, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my question is, if we are waiting till the end till we have a working document, a finished document, does that suggest then that we would not have voted on any proposed changes until we get that final document? And if that's the case, we have done all this work, and we are very, very close now to November 25th. And if we get some public comment that comes in that would compel some of us to change a position, we may have to go back and do all this work over again. So if it's a finalized document, as what I heard, if I didn't hear that correctly,
I think we're talking about a draft.
Let me.
well, then that needs to be said, a draft. But even at that if a draft document suggests that we haven't voted on anything in the document, so that becomes, again, a very, very dynamic document, which we would have to go back and revisit some of the work that we have done 5 weeks, 6 weeks ago. So I think we put ourselves in a potential position to be redundant if we get all the way out here close to November 25th and have to go back.
Let me just add one thing before we get any further. Would you please allow the chair to recognize you so we can keep the communication flowing? And did you have anything else to add, Ms. Oakwood? Go ahead.
Mrs. Franklin. Okay, no, what's gonna happen, we'll go through the documents and all of us will decide, okay, we can go to the second. Once we've reviewed the document, just say for instance, Article 5. If we've gone through Article 5, we all agree Article 5 is good. We'll continue going through the other documents. If the public comes in and say, oh, I don't like what's in Article 5, okay, I think you should change whatever's in Article 5, we can revisit that. We might not have to revisit the entire document, but maybe we can revisit sections of that document. But we will all agree before we continue moving on through the other documents. So our work won't be in vain.
Well, that's not what the amendment stated, because the amendment said wait until the end.
Mr. Taggart, go ahead.
Well, I think, but I do think,
No,
I'm sorry,
but-
I'm sorry. I'm so
Mr.
sorry.
Taggart's next.
It just sounds like to me, we're doing it a little at a time, with public comment, and then we're coming back at the end, getting comment, and so it still works out for the public to have feedback
It does.
at the end of the day.
It
That's
does.
what it sounds like to me.
It does.
I was talking about the document.
Okay.
That was going to be the
Uh,
platform.
Mr. Khalid? Just a minute, Mr. Bruce.
If it's all right, I do want to yield to
Absolutely.
Father
Mr.
of the
Bruce,
City
come
of
on.
South Fulton.
I think you're kind of missing the point of the public hearing. The idea is, just like you've been thinking about it for 5 years, the public's been thinking about it for 5 years too. And I think you need to start out by hearing, this is just my opinion, hearing from the public what they've been thinking about for the last 5 years. They've seen how the city has been functioning for the last 5 years. The public has an opinion, and I think you're missing an opportunity to get that input from the public before you do all of that work and then have to go back and do it again. That's just
So you suggesting maybe having a meeting that's strictly public hearing
exactly.
and then come back and,
I'm saying,
might, go ahead.
you may want to, acknowledge that the public has been, again, observing what's going on for the last 5 years. The public has an opinion. If only 2 people show up,
Right.
then that's it. But the point is, give the public a chance to give you what they've been thinking about for the last 5 years, so that as you start your work, you can incorporate that in it if you choose to or not.
Makes no sense. Okay. Mr. Clerk, where are we? We have a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Has it been second? We're still in discussion. Any further discussion, Mr. Clerk? Mr. Clerk? Mr. Cleek?
No, it's okay.
Mayor, go ahead.
I think we've come to a good stopping point, and I would just make a motion that our agenda for the next meeting simply be a public hearing. The agenda for the next meeting would be made, and then we would have more time to get you our thoughts after hearing the city's thoughts. Then we have more time to get you our thoughts for our next meeting, which would be the first, it would be the first Tuesday in August.
Okay, so can we do, before we did clear up the motion that's on the floor? All right, I think that,
Thank you,
go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
Vice Chair.
I do like the idea of putting all of our thoughts together, public comment at the beginning, earmarked time for that, and then coming back at the end, once we've considered the first public comment, make our recommendations, provide it to the public, and giving them one final chance to vote or to chime in on what we've determined their wishes are. And so, if that is the will of this body, I'd be willing to amend that motion to reflect designated public comment at the beginning of this process, and then public comment at the end of at the first draft of our process.
I'll second that.
What motion do I have on the floor? I mean, motion's going everywhere now.
I did my motion.
We have a lot of friendly amendments, but what I have recorded is motion by Mayor Khalid, seconded by Judge Johnson with the following amendments. Items should be submitted to the chair the Wednesday prior to the next meeting.
Right.
With this amendment here, there will be a public comment at the beginning of the process and another public comment period at the end of the process regarding the draft document.
And that the first meeting would just be the public hearing.
Correct, yes.
Okay, I think you incorporated it all.
Yeah, with Ms. Johnson's,
Okay, and we have a second. Okay, let's vote. All in favor? Oppose? That passes. So I think we got about everything we can do here tonight, Mr. Adams. Anyone have any other discussions?
Just one question.
Go ahead.
The draft is a very dynamic and fluid document because we'll be talking about stuff at every meeting.
Yeah.
So every time we come in and discuss a matter and make a proposal, will that automatically generate another occasion for a round of public comment on this now revised draft, second draft, third draft?
That's not what I heard.
No, it was okay.
I mean, I'm listening to you.
Well, it was initially, I heard that at the end, the public will have comment. Now I'm hearing that when we get a draft, well, we'll have a draft in a couple weeks of some salient points that we've talked about on a certain article. 2 weeks later, we'll have some more. So every time we have a addition to the draft, the question is, does that generate another round of comment from the public?
No, I don't think so, but Mr. Mayor, go ahead. Speak.
Thank you so much for acknowledging me, Mr. Mayor. I hear you, but I think, again, a lot of this has been contemplated. We're going to have, the next meeting is, should this motion pass, or it did pass, right? So the next meeting is going to be a public hearing. And then after that meeting, we will have like 7 to 10 days to get you ideas for the meeting in the first Tuesday in August. And so if the idea is to break it up in sections, then we'll get you which sections. Once you have a quorum of people that have the sections, and that plus your wisdom of having doing this, you will announce what the sections are to us, and we'll give you our feedback, and everybody will be good with it, and then we'll publish it on the Friday before that meeting. And we'll have a public comment after every draft. And as this body,
Sure.
following Robert's rules, we will decide what is constituted as a draft, or when we're saying this is the next draft and we're ready for the next round of public comment. So we can have as many public comment periods as we want. We don't have to decide, we don't have to decide anything else tonight.
No.
We could just hear from our public and talk about this in our dyads over the phone or
Kinda
over
gives us a
email if
jump
they're
start.
comfortable. So what in saying all of that, if it so please the body, I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion?
So moved.
Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Wait a minute now. Not a lot of ayes around here. All those in favor adjourn? All right.
We got,
This meeting's adjourned.
motion carries?
Motion carried.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Want to leave these here?